We rarely notice the steel towers holding our power lines, or the fuel terminals keeping our cities running, until they start collapsing. In July 2026, those quiet systems snapped under pressure simultaneously. In a single week, Cuba's national power grid went dark. Meanwhile, Iranian drones targeted Gulf shipping lanes, and floodwaters poured into the subterranean arteries of New York City. A single invisible thread connects these crises. Physical infrastructure, the mundane backbone of modern life, has been transformed into the primary theater of global warfare. As the United States government weaponizes energy to strangle foreign adversaries, it is simultaneously watching its own domestic infrastructure buckle under strain, creating a political crisis right before the midterm elections. For the 9.5 million people living in Havana and across the island, daily life has ground to a halt. The United States has enforced a 6-month-long oil blockade, cutting off the exact resource needed to keep the country moving. This vector map of the power grid illustrates the collapse. Without regular shipments of crude oil, Cuba's aging thermoelectric power plants are starved of fuel, causing the electrical system to fail region by region. The blockade is designed to create an unbearable energy deficit, a pressure campaign intended to force a total regime change and the extraction of 95-year-old Raul Castro. With temperatures in the mid-30s and no electricity to run water pumps, the social fabric is tearing. Street crime has risen sharply, and public unrest has grown as citizens bang pots and pans in desperate protest. By severing the energy supply line, the United States has engineered a complete humanitarian collapse, just 90 miles off its own coastline. Halfway across the globe, the United States is discovering how vulnerable its own economy is to that same tactic of energy deprivation. This is the Palace of Versailles, where a diplomatic ceasefire was signed on June 17th. That agreement is now void. The United States abruptly resumed military strikes on Iranian targets, ending the brief pause in hostilities. Secretary of State Marco Rubio systematically purged regional experts from the State Department, leaving the administration without the diplomats who understood Iran's actual resilience. This satellite view shows Karg Island, Iran's crude oil hub. Tehran weaponized the adjacent Strait of Hormuz, handling 20% of global energy exports. By demanding illegal tolls from vessels, they created an energy chokehold, holding the American economy hostage. The attempt to project absolute military dominance in the Middle East ultimately handed the adversary a lever to destabilize the global market. While military planners focus on controlling resource networks abroad, America's own physical foundation is buckling under environmental stress. Severe thunderstorms and flash floods have swept across the Northeast. In New York, torrential rain overwhelmed the city's drainage systems, and water poured straight into transit hubs like Penn Station. In Texas, relentless downpours have swollen rivers past their breaking points. Months of rainfall dropped in a matter of days, washing out interstate highways and physically collapsing massive steel bridges in Uvalde County. These localized floods are occurring under a blanket of toxic wildfire smoke from Canada, which has repeatedly pushed air quality in major cities into dangerous, unhealthy levels. The United States spends billions to dismantle power grids abroad, while its own critical infrastructure is literally washed away at home. This collision of foreign and domestic crises creates a severe political reality as the November 2026 midterm elections approach. On the global stage, the administration has engineered a humanitarian disaster in the Caribbean and triggered an escalating conflict in the Middle East, the type of prolonged war they previously condemned. That aggressive posturing abroad translates to immediate financial pain at the gas pump for voters who are already navigating flooded roads and failing local power grids. July 2026 demonstrates that national security depends on domestic resilience and energy independence. Aggressive military posturing is ineffective if the home grid remains vulnerable to collapse. A nation cannot successfully enforce its will upon the world when its own foundational infrastructure is sinking at home.